Okay, so if you've been following these at all, we're up to day 3 and 4. We spent them at Epcot. We spent the first day at Epcot just kind of doing the front area where the rides are, and then the second day doing the back area where all the food is. Now we did that because later the first day we had reservations for the musical show Hoop-de-Doo. So we mainly did the rides and a little bit of the back, couple of food places. So to start off, there are few rides at Epcot. There aren't as many as Magic Kingdom or even, I would say, Hollywood Studio. And the two big rides that are there are Test Track and Soarin', both of which would be good to Fast Pass. However, they're both part of the same tier for Fast Pass, so you can really only Fast Pass one per day. So again, in no real particular order, the first ride that we went on at Epcot was Test Track, as sponsored by Chevy. This is a ride that even my grandfather told me that I should go on. He said I would enjoy it. However, back when he did it, they were not Tron-inspired cars, which is one of the main things that they did changing this ride, theming everything as Tron-related. You still have the same ride as it was when you were actually going through the Test Track, but now everything is kind of Tron-inspired. The queue or wait area is actually really nice now, however, because you get to create or design your own car that will follow you through the simulator, and you can kind of see how it does in compared to the other people in your car. However, I believe you only get 2 cars per vehicle that you're riding in, because there's the front area and then the back area to each of the cars. So my mother-in-law and sister-in-law rode in the front, and my wife and myself rode in the back. And between the 4 of us, we only had 2 cars each time we rode this, because we did ride it twice, because we did go back 2 days in a row. So you get to design your own car. Now, it's not just based on looks, because the first time we did it, we tried to base the car on how we wanted it to look, not really paying attention to, you know, certain aspects that you would add to the car would change its power versus handling. The one downfall with this is, because it's in the queue area, you only have 3 minutes to design your car, so don't take too long designing your car. Get it done, get it out there, and just see what happens. I would like to note that both times that we rode this ride, my wife and I beat my mother-in-law and sister-in-law. Albeit both times by about 3 or 4 points, we still beat them. So the majority of the ride takes place inside, where you're going around a sim track, you know, testing the brakes, testing the tire handling on wet or slippery roads. And then the best part is the acceleration test, where you zip outside and you get up to just about 60 miles an hour whipping around the track. It's a fun ride. Both pictures we have from this ride are just funny. The secondary picture is what I would consider the best, is because my wife, myself, and my sister-in-law all have our hands in the air, and my mother-in-law was trying to film, but it looks like she's grabbing onto the side of the cart for dear life. Test Track should be on your list of places or rides to do when you go to Epcot. I'll also kind of preface that with, again, like I said, for the Magic Kingdom and Hollywood Studio, they're, you know, just because it's something that, you know, not a lot of people talk about. The restrooms, I found the restrooms at Test Track to be kind of, you would think it's next to a main attraction, so it would be a little busier than it is. It wasn't that busy, so if you're looking for a slightly quieter, low trafficked area, that's where you should go to check that out. Now, one of the other big ticket items is Soarin', which I kindly referred to as the best travel video for California that you'll ever see. The premise behind this is you get into these rows of seats and you get locked down, and it brings you up into the air, and you've got this giant screen in front of you, and you're pretty much parasailing or hang gliding through the California countryside and other areas in California. One of the big things with this ride is if you are afraid of heights, it may be a little much for you. As long as you don't look down, you should be okay. I'm not saying you'll definitely be okay, but you should be okay. I am deadly terrified of heights, which is why, well, partially why we drove down instead of flying down to Florida. But we were the second row from the top, so there was only one row above us, and I was perfectly fine. Just as long as you stare straight ahead, look at the screen, don't look down at your feet, just look straight ahead, and you're okay. The whole thing kind of sways from side to side, you know, mimicking the hang gliding or parasailing motions, as well as, you know, there are the smellolators there. So when you're flying over the orange orchards, you smell citrus. Likewise, when you're kind of swooping through some of the pine forests and by streams, you kind of get that pine smell. While this is one of the big ticket items, and I know that my wife's grandfather loves this ride and goes on it as, you know, several times if he goes down, I personally felt while it was really cool, I did it once and I was okay. I didn't feel like I had to go on it again and again. It was interesting, it was fun, but one time was enough, at least one time per trip to do. There is a stowage area underneath the seat, kind of mesh with elastic, big enough to handle your average size book bags or any souvenir bags that you may have gotten from the parks. Anything bigger than that, and you might run into an issue where you kind of have to stow it elsewhere as opposed to directly on the ride. So we're gonna preface this. So while not necessarily a ride, at this point in the day, we had been there for a little bit, and the next item that I'm going to talk about is Club Cool. So if you are looking for 1, free drinks, and 2, caffeine, this is the place to go. It's pretty much a Coca-Cola souvenir stand, if you want to think of it that way, but they have soda fountains where you can get little Dixie cups and try different types of Coke from around the world. Yes, there's a bad Coke. Everybody knows there's a bad flavored Coke unless you actually like it. But the majority of people, there's a Coke, it tastes horrible. I'm going to leave it up to you to find out which one it is, just because I had to try it. My family laughed at me. Not necessarily want to laugh at you, but everybody needs to try the horrible Coke. So it's a good little respite. You run in there, it's air conditioned, you can kind of hydrate up and caffeine up. My wife and I hit this place up several times during the course of our staying at Epcot. One time when we were running from the front of Epcot to the back of Epcot to get some souvenirs and food for friends, we kind of hit Club Cool both going and coming just to, you know, like I said, caffeine up and cool off a little bit. So well worth seeing, well worth going, especially if you're a Coca-Cola souvenir fan. This will be more interesting to you than it was for me. I just kind of used it to test out all of the different Cokes. There are a few that were actually pretty good, but I would not call them soda. Maybe, I don't know. Some of them didn't even like feel like they were caffeinated, or not caffeinated, carbonated. But let me know if I'm right or wrong. I'm not sure. I'm trying to, again, do this all from memory in my notes, and it's getting later and later and further from my trip, so I'm trying to get as many of these done while I still remember as well as I can. So if I'm wrong, let me know, because I could be wrong. So the other thing we did the first day at Epcot was the Seas with Nemo and Friends. It's kind of a two-part ride. The first part is kind of like one of those, you're going through the movie, kind of like Ariel or Winnie the Pooh or Peter Pan from the Magic Kingdom. So it's kind of got that similar style to it where you get in the little mover and you kind of work your way through the story. Now, one of the cool things with this particular story mover, I'll call it, since they're fish, they kind of project them onto what you assume are just, you know, TV screens, but they're not actually TV screens. They're little windows into the actual aquarium that you're going to be going into, because that's the second part of this ride. Is it drops you off into a aquarium, a very, a decent sized aquarium. So you're projecting the Nemo characters in with real fish, and at first or at least I was kind of like, huh, those fish look really real. And then you kind of realize towards the end, it's like, oh wow, okay, they're projecting the Nemo characters onto this aquarium in the background. So like I said, it's a two-part ride, ending with a decent sized aquarium with, dolphins and manatees and fish of all shapes, sizes, and colors. It can be a little crowded because while the ride part is fairly short, people can hang out in the aquarium area longer. And when they do that, depending on what you're trying to see, things can be kind of hectic. The other ride, it is a ride at Epcot, is Spaceship Earth. So it's that giant golf ball that you pretty much associate Epcot with. It actually is a ride. Inside is a ride that takes you through the evolution of communication from the beginning of man to just about modern times. And it's a cool, slow-going ride. You wind yourself up to the top of the giant golf ball, and then you kind of work your way back down. At the beginning of the ride, it takes a picture of your face, and that's for the ride back down. Your face is interjected in this little interactive screen. You tell it, what are your interests, and you get the little movie that plays out, and it kind of puts your face in there. The animatronics in this were kind of cool. Well, the animatronics were cool in this ride because you're closer to them than in most of the other rides. Like at some points you could reach out and touch stuff. Because this was also another ride that we got stuck on. Thankfully, we got stuck a little bit past the burning of the library in Alexandria, which when I first rode on that on this ride, it kind of, I don't want to say freaked me out, but they definitely have like a smoky, campfire-y smell, if you're familiar with that, for that particular area. And I thought that something was actually burning, but no, it was the burning of the Library of Alexandria. But we broke down probably for like 15 minutes past that. And this is also how I saw a hidden Mickey in this ride. So there is the painter, and if you look over to the side where he has the bowl of fruit and some of his paints, there are the 3 circles on his desk from paint cans that look like a hidden Mickey or a Mickey head. So if you know of other ones, let me know, but that's the one that I saw, so it should be on the left-hand side of the ride while you're going through it. So let me know if you know of any others. But that's the one I found, when we were sitting there for like 15 minutes. And even though we sat there, we went on it a couple times, because we went on the first day and we did go on it twice on the second day. So 3 times, which is a good amount. But that is Spaceship Earth at Epcot. So you should do it. You kind of have to. It's just cool because you get up really, really close to the golf ball and go through the golf ball. So the last thing that we did on day 1 was the Grand Fiesta Tour with the 3 Caballeros. We kind of did this mainly to get out of the rain. We were lucky, and it really only rained 2 days when we were down there. But the first day that it rained was when we were at Epcot, and there is like very little shelter at Epcot, and it was a torrential downpour. Like, ponchos did nothing. Umbrellas were more helpful with the poncho, but like shoes were soaked. So we ran into this area and went on this ride to get out of the rain for a little bit. I think the ride was probably like 10-15 minutes long. Mind you, this is after we had walked in the rain for like 10 minutes because we were still in the front area, and this particular ride was more towards the back. It's a cool ride. It's got the 3 Caballeros, if you're familiar with them. The Donald Duck is one of them, and then the 2 other birds that you don't really see all that often in any other Disney shows. But they're all in there. It takes you through something that almost reminded me of like It's a Small World with like some of the dolls. I kind of looked around and I went, these dolls kind of look like they belong over in Small World, but they're here. So maybe they were leftovers. I don't know. But it's a good show, and you should check it out. So that was the first half. That was day one at Epcot, and just, you know, we did almost 10 miles.